Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really important topic, but one that can get pretty complex. Making sure your password management actually lines up with all those organizational rules and compliance needs. We've spent a lot of time going through, well, quite a bit of research and expert analysis, really mapping the top password management tools against the major compliance frameworks out there. So our mission in this deep dive is basically to boil all that down for you, give you the clearest, most useful nuggets of knowledge. Think of it as a shortcut to getting up to speed on how to align your security stuff with those, crucial regulations.
And that's exactly it. This isn't just some theoretical exercise, right? Aligning password management with compliance. It's not simply about checking off boxes on a form. It's really fundamental. It's about significantly boosting your organization's security overall, and importantly, making sure you're effectively meeting those critical regulatory demands, especially if you're handling sensitive data. I mean, this translates directly into protecting your most valuable assets and, frankly, avoiding some potentially huge penalties.
Okay, so we understand the why. That seems pretty clear and, well, crucial. But the challenge then becomes, how do organizations actually do this? How do they get to that level of compliance? And I guess that's where the different password management solutions really come into the picture. But maybe before we dive into the tools themselves, let's quickly set the scene. What are the major compliance frameworks our sources kept bringing up? We're talking NIST, ISO 27001.
Right. PCI, DSS, IPA, SOX, and of course GDPR. It seems like alphabet soup sometimes, doesn't it?
Definitely does.
But what's really fascinating, I think, is how these frameworks, these acronyms, they tie directly into a company's legal and even ethical responsibilities. You mentioned NIST, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's often seen as like the gold standard for cybersecurity guidelines, especially in the US. Or MIPAIA, totally essential for protecting sensitive health information, what they call PHI. And then there's GDPR, huge for personal data privacy, particularly if you operate in Europe or handle data of EU residents. Each one, whether it's ensuring financial data integrity under SOX or securing credit card payments under PCI DSS, they all have very specific requirements, things like data protection, access control, auditing, encryption, which makes strong password management, well, it makes it indispensable. It's not just a feature. It's a core part of your compliance strategy, like the foundations of your digital security house, really.
Okay, so they're not just dry legal documents. They're more like blueprints for building strong security. But the question remains, how do you actually build it? How do you put that into practice day to day? That's where the specific password tools come in, right? Our sources seem to break them down based on their strengths, who they're best suited for.
Exactly. And choosing the right solution is absolutely critical. It really, really depends on the specific compliance hurdles an organization is trying to clear. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Think of it like picking the right tool for a job. You wouldn't use a hammer to turn a screw.
Makes sense. So we've got the baseline needs covered. But what about those organizations facing the really tough requirements? The ones where good enough just won't cut it. What do the sources say about the top-tier solutions? The ones often labeled as Advanced Privileged Access Management, or PAM. What makes them different?
Right, PM. So for organizations in really heavily scrutinized fields, finance, healthcare, government contractors, where every single access point could be looked at under a microscope during an audit, our sources point to a few heavy hitters. These are really designed for, let's say, full spectrum compliance. We're talking about tools like Delinea Secret Server, CyberArk Password Vault, and Manage Engine Password Manager Pro. With Delinea Secret Server, what's insightful isn't just the long feature list. It's how its comprehensive approach, covering everything from privileged access control to detailed session monitoring, lets an organization build this unbroken chain of custody for basically every digital action. That's huge for auditors looking at NIST or ISO 27001 compliance.
It's a broken chain. Okay.
Yeah, and its session monitoring, for instance, isn't just about recording what happened. It's about having granular controls that can proactively flag unusual behavior in real time. That shifts you from just reactive auditing for PCI DSS to something more preventative.
That's a really big difference, moving from reactive to proactive. What about CyberArk? Where does it fit?
CyberArk Password Vault is another real powerhouse, especially strong in PAM, as you mentioned. Privileged access management. Think of PAM as locking down the keys to the kingdom, those admin accounts, the root accounts, the ones with the highest level of access. They're prime targets for attackers. CyberArk is built specifically to secure those critical entry points. It focuses heavily on strong identity and access management, which is vital for protecting, say, sensitive cardholder data under PCI DSS, or for supporting those complex financial access control audits you see with SOX. It really emphasizes data encryption and the principle of least privilege access.
Least privilege, meaning people only get the absolute minimum access they need.
Exactly that. Just enough to do their job and absolutely no more. It drastically reduces the potential attack surface.
Got it. And the third one in that top tier, Manage Engine Password Manager Pro.
Manage Engine is often highlighted as being particularly good for IT teams who are juggling a lot of privileged access and facing frequent audits. Now, lots of tools offer audit logs, right? But the key insight on Manage Engine from our sources seems to be how its role-based access controls, RBAC, are designed to actually simplify complex audits, like for SOX. By enforcing that least privilege idea at a very granular level, it can significantly narrow down what an auditor needs to look at. Makes life much easier for the compliance folks. So connecting it back, these top-tier solutions, they're really for those highly regulated environments where, every access point is critical and one mistake could have really severe consequences.
Okay, it paints a very clear picture for the high-stakes environments. But what about, well, the rest of the business world? Lots of companies need solid security and compliance, but maybe they don't need the intense complexity of a full-blown PAM system. What do the sources suggest for those more general business-type needs?
Ah, yes, that's a huge category. For general business password security, the focus shifts a bit. We're looking at well-known solutions like 1Password Business, LastPass Business, and Keeper Enterprise Password Manager. These are often excellent all-rounders. Take 1Password Business. It really emphasizes enforcing strong authentication, setting up good password policies, and it supports things like MFA, multi-factor authentication.
Right, the extra code from your phone, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Plus, it has robust audit logging, all that helps meet general access control requirements found in many frameworks. One thing to note, though, is that its privileged session monitoring is described as limited, so maybe less deep oversight for those super user accounts compared to the PAM solutions.
Okay, limited PAM. And LastPass Business. Similar story.
Pretty similar, yeah. LastPass Business also highlights MFA, centralized access control, making it easier to manage who gets access to what. It helps enforce secure authentication and protects stored credentials effectively. It's often seen as very user-friendly, which is a big plus for adoption across a company. But again, like 1Password, the sources note it generally lacks full privileged session monitoring.
Gotcha. And Keeper.
Keeper Enterprise Password Manager kind of rounds out this category. It gets praise for strong support for MFA, secure vaulting for passwords, robust encryption, and importantly, providing pretty good compliance reporting capabilities. Which brings up a really important question for you, the listener, to consider. What level of oversight does your organization actually need? Is standard password management and logging enough? Or do you need that deeper visibility into exactly what users, especially privileged users, are doing?
That's a key decision point. Okay, moving along, our sources also identified a category focused on open source and customizable security. This seems to appeal to folks looking for more control, maybe avoiding vendor lock-in. We see Bitwarden Enterprise and Passport mentioned here.
Indeed. Open source definitely offers that flexibility. Bitwarden Enterprise, for example, supports password policy enforcement, secure encryption, RBAC, MFA, and it has audit logs. All good things for compliance. A key point here is that it typically has no session recording, so you won't get that video-like playback of what a user did during a session. But it does offer zero-knowledge encryption.
Ah, zero knowledge. That sounds significant. What does that mean practically?
It means that the service provider, in this case, Bitwarden, literally cannot decrypt or view your stored credentials. Only you, the user, or the organization hold the decryption key. It's a very strong privacy and security feature.
Okay, that's a big plus for some organizations, I imagine. What about Passport?
Passport is interesting because it's often self-hosted, so you run it on your own servers, giving you maximum control. It's open source, strong encryption. But crucially, the sources point out it also generally lacks session monitoring features, and it doesn't typically offer the kind of advanced built-in compliance reporting you might see in other enterprise tools. So yeah, these open source options give you flexibility, maybe lower cost in some ways, but they often require more internal technical know-how to manage and configure properly for specific compliance needs.
Right, so there's a trade-off there. More control, but potentially more internal workload. Okay, finally, there's this last group seems like a bit of a mix, specialized tools or maybe more basic offerings. The list includes Dashlane Business, NordPass Business, Zoho Vault, LogMeOnce, Spix Password Policy, Remember for Teams, and NPass Business. Quite a few there.
Yeah, it's a diverse category covering different niches. Many of these, like Dashlane Business and NordPass Business, are very competent at the core job, General password management, helping users create and store strong passwords, enforcing policies, providing good encryption. That covers basic data hygiene and meets fundamental access control requirements you'd find in, say, ISO 27 World 1 or even parts of GDPR. But a consistent theme across many of these, according to the sources, is a limitation when you get into the more advanced areas we discussed. For instance, Dashlane and NordPass are highlighted as specifically lacking privileged access management capabilities.
So not really designed for managing those critical admin accounts.
Generally, no. Then you have Zoa Vault and LogMeOnce Business Password Manager. They offer secure storage, access controls, audit logging, all important. But again, they typically lack session recording features or detailed privileged session tracking.
Okay. And the even more specialized ones, like SpecOps.
Exactly. SpecOps password policy is really laser-focused. Its main strength is enforcing really strong password policies, preventing users from choosing common or breached passwords. Great for that specific task, but it lacks privileged access tracking. It's more about the password itself than managing the access it grants. Remember, for Teams is positioned as a more basic, perhaps small team-focused option. Secure vaulting, strong encryption, the fundamentals are there. But it generally lacks session tracking and the advanced auditing features needed for stricter compliance regimes.
And MPass Business sounds unique with offline storage.
Yeah, NPass Business emphasizes offline password storage, meaning your vault isn't primarily cloud-based, it's stored locally and encrypted locally. It appeals to some for privacy reasons, but the trade-off noted is often a lack of real-time features like automated password rotation across systems, and it typically doesn't have those specific privileged access controls. So what does this all boil down to for you, the listener? It really comes back to context. You've got to find the right fit. What are your specific compliance mandates? What's your organization's risk tolerance? What level of technical expertise do you have in-house? It's kind of like choosing a security system for your house, right? A small apartment might just need a good lock. A large business holding sensitive data needs, well, a much more sophisticated, multi-layered system with monitoring.
That's a great analogy. So pulling this all together, the main takeaway seems crystal clear. It's not just about getting a password manager. It's about carefully choosing the right one. The one that genuinely aligns with your specific compliance needs, be it NIST, HIPAA, GDPR, PCI, or something else. Doing that can significantly boost your security and make meeting those regulations much smoother.
Absolutely. And understanding the details, the nuances of how each solution helps meet those requirements is paramount. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is where the real value is. And in this context, applying this knowledge translates directly into stronger security, fewer vulnerabilities, and hopefully peace of mind when the auditors come knocking. Think about it, those robust audit logs we mentioned, they're like your organization's black box recorder. If something goes wrong, having that detailed, immutable record of who did what, when, and where, it's invaluable, both for figuring out what happened and for proving your compliance efforts.
That's a powerful point. So looking ahead then, given how fast cyber threats evolve and how regulations are always changing, always adapting, here's something to think about. How might the next generation of password management solutions need to evolve? How can they move beyond just meeting today's compliance rules to actually maybe proactively predicting or addressing future security challenges? What would that even look like? Something to ponder.